It was amazing, wasn't it?
Yeah, yeah,
That afternoon.
yeah. Because when you obviously when you get to that stage in the process, by the time you actually meet the boys, they've been being prepared by their social workers for weeks and weeks and weeks, um, because they were hoping that you were going to be the match, and then once you've been to panel, it's decided that you are the match, and then they've got a matter of weeks between the panel and you actually meeting the boys and doing introductions. Um, and so actually, when you meet the children, they already know a huge amount about you. That was a real surprise
Mm.
because you know a huge amount about them from reading their file, but I hadn't really realised that with all this information we'd sent through and photographs we'd sent through and films we'd sent through, that actually the boys knew quite a lot about us. And so walking into a stranger's house and having three children you've never met before run across the room and scream "Daddy" is quite a strange experience. But they didn't know that we were Mark and Paul. That's not how they'd been introduced to us. They'd been introduced to us as Dad and Daddy. So for them, they'd had nearly a month of talking to people about their new Dad and Daddy. So, I don't think I'd thought that bit through, really. So you just walked into this house full of strangers and three kids threw themselves at you and said hello to you as Dad and Daddy, didn't they?
Mm.
So, yeah, it was a very emotional experience.
It felt amazing. We felt quite nervous as well.
Mm.
So we were kind of worried about saying the wrong thing, worried about staying too long, not long enough. Worried, and we kind of played it very slowly, gently, sat down, held back, and let them come to us rather than us kind of going very in at them. And it was just interesting watching them all do that in their own different ways and finding either verbal ways, physical, some were more huggy than others, at different points. But yeah, it felt really hard to believe that day.
Yeah.
That when we left after a couple of hours, that in 2-3 weeks later, we would be living together and we would be looking after them, and that we would become their parents. It just felt a massive, massive step.
Because we were adopting a sibling group, the introduction period was much longer. We've got friends that have adopted a single child, and their introduction period was 3 or 4 days. But because we were adopting a sibling group of 3 children, social workers were very keen that we had chance to bond with each of the children individually, as well as simply spending time with the 3 of them together. So actually our introductions period was 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
About 2.5 weeks.
So we physically were off timetable, away from work, living in a different part of the country for sort of a 2.5, 3 week period to really get to know the boys before we ever brought them back to our home.